I'm Gary Kahanick. My company is Home Energy Consultants, and I'm here in Chad and Joanna Pollock's house to do an energy audit. They are wishing to see what improvements they can make to improve their energy efficiency.
We're just really excited because for quite some time we've had the dream of owning our own home and making it as energy efficient as possible. We're both believers in that climate change is real, and we want to be as off the grid as possible, and we're just getting started. We have a long, long way to go. And Gary's going to help us get started today, pointing out just some basics.
The main service I provide is energy audits for existing homes. I'm a resident certified home energy rater to use building science concepts to understand how houses work as a system. We'll come into homes with specialized diagnostic equipment and look at all aspects of the house that have to do with energy. At the conclusion of the audit, we provide a prioritized list of recommended improvements in order of which improvement will give the most benefit. The first step is to have a brief discussion with the homeowners and find out what their concerns are, what problems they may have. I'll ask them questions about how the house performs, if there's one area that's difficult to heat or cool compared to the rest of the house. So once we have that sort of baseline of their experience, then I start in with the audit itself, which is basically going through the house, looking at all the features, the windows, water heater, the furnace, air conditioner, appliances. We look in the attic, we look in the crawl space or basement to determine insulation levels. And then we use diagnostic equipment. We use a blower door, which is a device that will exhaust air from the house and measure the pressure and the volume of air moved. That gives us a quantitative measurement on the leakiness of the building envelope. Not only does this give us the measurement of how leaky it is, but while the blower door is running, we can determine where some of the larger leaks actually are. The other big item that we check is duct leakage for the heating and air system. Most existing duct systems leak tremendously, and this is one of the single biggest problems in most homes. It's relatively easy to repair and will yield significant improvements right away, both in comfort and in energy. We'll also use an infrared thermal scanner or an infrared camera. This allows us to detect imperfections or missing insulation in walls and ceiling. So that's a very useful tool as well. Those are the main tests that we run. There are a few others, but that suite of tests plus the visual examination gives us a pretty good idea of what's happening in the house. I have your reports here, and you've had a little time to review them after I sent them to you, right? Mm-hmm. This diagnostic survey, basically it documents what's already here, but then also there are diagrams in here for the problems it did identify. These are informative and educational and will help you as you go about dealing with contractors or doing some of the work yourself. It ranks by importance the various items. So that allows you to start with the items that will give you the most effect, most positive effect for the amount of money you'll be spending on it. There is another number here that's fairly important. On the form it's NACH, and that means natural air changes per hour. That's the number that we get from the blower door test. You'd like your house to be around 0.35 natural air changes per hour. Your number was 0.78 air changes per hour, so it's about twice what you'd like it to be. A lot of your leaks occur in the ceiling adjoining the attic. And so in the wintertime, of course, hot air rises and you have more loss in the winter. So to the extent that you can get those sealed up, you're going to notice a comfort difference immediately in the winter. And of course, energy too, your bills will go down. This is the infrared thermal scanner report. I took a few images along with the regular digital photographs so you can tell where it is in your house. And this one is right here in the dining room. There's a spot where you can see that there is insulation in the wall, but there's a cold spot above it, and that's an area where either there's not insulation or it's pulled away from the wall, so cold air is moving around it. So again, it's not enough to justify tearing the wall apart to fix. This next shot is one of the doors on this east wall, so we can see here that it's quite a bit colder. This dark area above the big window used to be the header in the garage door opening, and there's no insulation there. It turns up cold. This next one is the pantry. That door to the outside that you never use and is poorly fitting, we can see the leaks at the bottom and at the side. And there's the attic access panel with no insulation, just pure black heat loss. And this is in one of the bedrooms. We can see in one of these stud bays, the insulation is not as good as in others. So there you go, that's your infrared. Let's go through my action list here. The first item is for your water heater. You have a gas-fired water heater in a hall closet. There's no provision for combustion air. In a leaky house, it doesn't matter. But as you start sealing the house up, it can get to be a safety issue. If you made your house tight enough, the water heater could backdraft carbon monoxide into the house. There's several ways you can solve this issue, but that issue should be solved before you start doing aggressive air sealing of the house. The first thing you ought to work on is the heating and air duct system. You had over 13% leakage, so duct sealing is up at the top of the list. The next thing is the building envelope air leakage. You've got the old wooden sash windows, which are pretty leaky. The solutions are to use weather stripping and try and get those sealed up better, or replace the windows. Unless you have the money for it or there are other reasons to replace windows, we typically will put that as a low priority. You can get much more improvement spending that money elsewhere. On this east wall, there are two entry doors that pretty much are not used. What we found during the blower door test is those were sources of a lot of air leakage. The pantry and the kitchen, we saw pretty significant airflow coming through all the wall assemblies and the floor and the ceiling in that pantry. So there are a number of things there that can be worked on. The attic access panel, it's a poorly fitting panel with no insulation, so that's inexpensive and easy fix, and it's a big hole. Now we're up to the attic. You've got about R20 of insulation, so you need to have more insulation added, but before insulation, it's a great opportunity to seal any of the penetrations in that ceiling first. You're really shooting yourself in the foot if you put insulation before air sealing. You will not get the R value out of that insulation if air is moving through it. Your ductwork is in the crawl space, and the register, the vents are through the floor. Typically, those metal register boots are not sealed to the subfloor, and that's just an open hole to the crawl space. So the fix is pull the grill covers off, and if you see a gap there between the metal boot and the floor, just use some caulk or expanding foam, seal it up, put the grill back, and you're done. And a smaller hole is the electrical switch boxes and receptacles. During the blower door test, in almost any home, we'll feel air coming in. And you can buy these inexpensive foam gaskets that fit behind the cover plate. Further on down, we move to the heating and air equipment. Your equipment is quite old, especially the air conditioner. That unit is probably about an 8 SEER. So if you went from an 8 SEER to a 16 SEER, it would do the same work and use half the energy. The crawl space, you have a lot of groundwater issues down there, and you should have plastic down on the ground to reduce humidity. The last big thing is that when they built this house, they did not install soffit vents for the attic ventilation. You've got high vents, but not low vents. So that increases your heat load in the summer. Well, I think that's everything. Any questions?
Well, it just sounds like we have a lot of work to do, but it sounds good to know that there's so much of it that we can do ourselves.
I can advise you on names for contractors for the things that you can't do yourself, and I'm available by phone, email, so we can communicate and help you through that process so you're not just left hanging with the report and don't know where to turn.
Wow. Thanks, Gary.